Hey everybody, wanted to let you know that my new book, Hometown Titan, Build a Local Business That Dominates Your Market, is now available on Amazon and has already hit the bestseller lists. We're going to be coming out with Audible soon and hoping to get it into some bookstores, but it would mean the world to me if you went out and got your copy here today, because in this book, I tell never before told stories on my 12 plus year journey in the moving industry. So go get your copy today, Hometown Titan, Build a Local Business That Dominates Your Market, and tighten up.
And just learning not all money is good money, learning that what I believe in and what I want my company to uphold in the sense of its policies needs to stay strong, and I need to stand for it. Otherwise, I stand for nothing. I'm such not a data guy where I feel like you feel comfortable in the data, where I feel more comfortable with seeing how my guys are kind of like, I more watch the temperament of my guys in the office, the field. And that's where I kind of keep my eye on. I'm like, is the tempo good? Do I need to hop on moves just to see how guys are doing? Do we need to do a company event, or do I just need to have one-on-ones to just uplift the mentality? That's where my focus is on. So like I use AI for a lot of creative stuff. I use it for some of the design stuff, like the shirt I'm wearing right here. I made, and I was giving these to customers. It has like two guys lifting the couch in the back. So I use AI for a lot of design and creative elements that I implement, whether it's like a box that I give to customers.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Grow Your Moving Company podcast. I'm your host, Wade Sweikel, owner of Two College Brothers Moving Storage and Franchising, and co-founder of the Moving Titans that many of you might be familiar with. Today's guest is the owner and founder of Dogwood Moving and Brightleaf Moving, which we'll get into on how that came to be. But Dogwood Moving is a Raleigh-based company with over 20 trucks. In fact, they now have a location in Wilmington for a combined total of 24 trucks, and they're about a $6.5 million company. And today's guest is Ryan King, the owner and founder of Dogwood and Brightleaf, with locations in Raleigh, Durham, and Wilmington. And he has seen astronomical growth in just 5 years in business. He's been in the moving industry since 2015, but started Dogwood Moving in 2020. And 5 years later, he is crushing it, opening more locations, buying trucks, already has a couple dozen of them, and doing well over $6 million in revenue, shooting for 7. Ryan, thanks for coming on the podcast. It's great to catch up with you. I know it's been a while since we've talked, so it's good to be having another conversation again. How you doing?
I'm doing great. It's an honor to be here. Long-time listener. I listened to the season 1 and 2 before I opened, preparing for 6 months, just listening to every episode.
Yeah, well, it's funny that you mentioned seasons, because that's my excuse when I take a break and don't do a lot of episodes. And so I say, hey, we're doing a new season. So I started doing another new season a few weeks ago, maybe 6 weeks ago, over the course of the summer, in preparation for our next Moving Titan retreat. But it's like anything else, it goes through seasons. The moving industry is seasonal, so why can't the podcast industry be seasonal as well? Sometimes in life we have to sprint and focus on certain things for a period of time, but always find my way back to my roots, and recently upgraded some of the equipment. So having a lot of fun with it. But, Ryan, I think this is your first time on the podcast, right? You've been a listener, but we haven't actually done one yet until today. Tell the listeners a little bit in your own words, kind of your story and your rise to becoming a fairly decent sized company in just a few 5 years time.
I was in college playing college soccer, and leading up to that, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I was just that athlete that wanted to be a professional athlete his whole life. Kind of come junior year, I was deciding if I want to continue playing after taking on some debt with college. And I applied to a job for a gym. And this is back when Indeed, everyone can kind of see your resumes. And a guy reached out and was like, do you want to work for this moving company? It was like $15 an hour. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. So I started working there, and I was still going to class. But it reached a point when I was working every single day, and he asked me to become the GM of the company after about a month or so. And this was just a one truck operation. And I was fighting him for a while, and I was like, no, I want to do what I love, when I used to live that kind of dream before I realized what moving could be. And I was like, I'm going to do personal training. But then after asking him questions, seeing the company grow, saw how I was really good at it. It was creative in ways and helping customers I really enjoyed. I said, I'm all in, and I stopped going to class. I wound up dropping out and went full force into this company. And I remember my parents, I was the first person in college with my family, so they were shocked what I was doing. My friends, my girlfriend was freaking out at the time, like, what are you doing? but I just had full belief in this concept of what this company was going to be. So after about 6 months in the field, I went in the office and I helped grow that company from 1 truck to 20 trucks before I branched out and opened my own.
Wow. So that company saw a lot of growth under your leadership, and you had no moving experience. You were fresh out of college, obviously athletic, and you just got offered this GM role at a 1 truck operation and grew it to 20 trucks in 5 years. And now you've grown your own company to over 20 trucks in 5 years. What do you think's been the biggest key to that growth success? I mean, because most companies aren't even close to 20 trucks after decades.
It may be almost the fact that like I don't cripple myself in the sense of like having to follow a certain structure. So in the beginning, the owner was great at mentoring me and showing me things, but also gave me so much freedom. So if it was create a system, he's like, yeah, go for it. I'd run it by him. And when he was like, how do I hire people? He's like, go on Indeed. So I didn't know what I was doing, but I've just always had this mentality of trying to like improve. So when I was as a GM, I took it as serious as possible. I'd try to work 7 days a week if he'd let me, even though he was like, no, you can only work 5. And I just started researching like, when it came to claims, how to be better at them. So I started reading psychology books, negotiation books, stuff like that. And then when something wouldn't work with interviewing, I was like, all right, I need questions. I used to just walk up and be like, why do you want the job? And just freestyle it. And then I was like, this doesn't work. So then I started reading business books and everything. And then over the years, especially before I opened my own, I saw a lot of mistakes that I made when I was 22, 23, not really knowing. So I just made sure starting fresh, going into the scaling phase, I knew what I was doing. So like in Charlotte, I would scale so quick with old models, works with 3 trucks, doesn't work with 6 trucks, it doesn't work with 10 trucks. And I wouldn't realize that at a certain phase, the trust of just being a small company where it works so well doesn't work once it hits a certain point. And then you have to have structure in place. So I made sure when I opened my own, the problems that arose without me being aware, I made sure I was preventing them from happening. And of course, things still happen. And then when something would happen, instead of just being like, it is what it is, I would then write it out and figure out how can I mitigate this, whether it's a difficult customer, whether it's a policy on TVs or something like that. So it's not keep repeating it. The mentality of if it's not broken, don't fix it was something I was kind of taught. And I was like, no, things can always get better. So that's something that I kind of always try to implement and teach my team now as well.
I love that, man. You're a student of the game and of business and life. You know, not many people read psychology books, but I love your approach of where you have an area where you're lacking knowledge or experience and you go find those answers. And I'm a big proponent of that too. I think a lot of us though, when it comes to reading, it's like we just read like the business book or the self-help book or the general book, but like really, I think the magic is finding those specific niche areas and going and learning everything there possibly is to know about it. You know, podcasts too. Are you a reader when it comes to like picking up a book and reading it, or do you listen to Audible, or do you do a combination of the two?
So it's evolved. So when I was the GM of the company, I used to take my hour lunch break and go to Starbucks and I would read books and take notes. I don't have as much time now. I'm constantly just always doing something. So now I'm either on YouTube, what's recommended from clips of podcasts, or I'm listening to full podcasts, or I have an Audible. And I go through phases. Like right now, I can't listen to a business book. I feel like I'm listening to a lot of the same information. And then there's the first 20 pages, you get the concept, and then there's fluff and stuff. So I've been going more to like back to what I used to love, which is philosophy. So I'm reading an Eastern philosophy book and just more on like understanding of like human nature. And that's kind of what I implement into the company. So like all my policies in my company are very logical based. I have an open door policy. Anyone can debate me on a policy because if they don't believe it, then they're not going to follow it. So I just try to train my guys to lead based off of how human nature is rather than just leading based off of having an authority or a title or something like that. So I'm just constantly changing whatever that month I'm interested in. I'm kind of just looking into it at that point.
Man, I'm totally with you on that. And there's definitely a big difference between a leader and a boss. And I think when you have small-minded people, they get a title and they try to just leverage, swing their, what around. But a leader gets the buy-in and they serve the people below them and they find out what their needs are and they do what they can to empower them to meet those needs themselves and teach them how to fish and not just tell them to fish. So that's awesome. So what are some of the top books that you've read recently, or you could say of all time too? By the way, I get what you're saying about the business books. A lot of them all repeat the same information. information. And so I think that magic lies in the nuance. And I'll go read books about aliens if that's what I'm into for a month. But
I wound up just started watching YouTube videos like during my peak. I'd be like, all right, I know this is a really popular book. Do I need to read the 300 pages, or can I watch someone's synopsis in like 20 minutes and really get the information? And then if I hear that, I'm like, okay, this sounds like something I want to read, I will. Or if it's a concept like the 80-20 rule, I don't think I need to read maybe the full book. I kind of get the concept after listening to it. Never Split the Difference. The negotiation book was a good one when it came to dealing with claims. I actually teach some of my guys to this day on making sure you let them vent. Don't say, I understand. That's insulting. You have to repeat what they say. So if someone's like, I'm upset because of this and this, repeat it. Best case scenario, you're right, and then they feel heard. Worst case scenario, they correct you, but they still feel like you're listening, and then it allows the resolution. I think as men, sometimes when we hear someone complaining, we just want to give the solution right away, and sometimes it's just listening to the customer. I turned an angry customer that left a 1-star because we didn't respond quick enough to a 5-star 2 days ago. I love doing it. I don't get overwhelmed by those conversations. I'm just like, all right, let's do this. I'm going to win him over. I tell my team that right before I speak to them as well.
I love that. It's like a challenge. Like, oh, let's go. Like, let's fight. You want to fight? Like, here, that, but not fight. But you know what I mean? Like, let's take this challenge head on instead of like be like, oh, we have another upset customer, or some business owners get scared and they're like, I don't want to talk to them. I don't want to get yelled at. Like, but you look at it as like, okay, here, this is a great opportunity. Let's go. Let's see what we got. Watch this. And I need a little drama in my life every once in a while. Sometimes it's a little boring. So I'm like, all right, I'll handle this one, guys, and hop in there. I was actually just listening to Brad Lee. I do a combination of Audible and reading and podcasts and YouTube. You know, it's all good stuff. I think it's good to have variety. But Brad Lee has a book called The Hard Way, and it's a little bit of a memoir, a little bit of his business lessons. And if you know Brad, he's got the Dropping Bombs podcast. He'll be speaking in September at our event. But he was just saying that literally humans need drama and they need problems in their life, because if you don't have problems, you get bored and then you die and you stop growing. And I thought that was basically, it's funny because I was literally on my way over here just listening to that and him say that. So yeah, I think sometimes we create problems too. Mm-hmm. Like we look for the problems without necessarily looking for the solution and the way to simplify things, because it's our human nature to want to stay busy and to want to be stimulated. But it doesn't have to be like that. There's always going to be problems. You don't have to create even more of them. This show is powered by HeyLou's virtual assistant team. They've revolutionized how we run our business and can handle anything from inbox management to social media, research, and yes, even production of this podcast. Want to reclaim more than 20 hours a week in your business so that you can focus on the things that really move the needle? Use our link in the description to get started with your own dedicated VA with HeyLou. And thanks to HeyLou for powering the Grow Your Moving Company podcast.
I mean, that's a great point. I'm reading a book that's like on the Tao Te Ching. It's like Eastern philosophy. And there's a big thing that they talk about, like, don't try to fit a circle peg in a square hole, and things like that. And I've been kind of trying to implement that in the sense of thinking about what my team and what guys are good at, instead of getting frustrated, being like, he's not good at being as organized as I'd like, but he's great with people. I just push them what makes them has the least resistance. So this way I get the best out of them rather than trying to make them something they're not. And that's something I try to do with all my guys from the field to the management. And it works better that way than rather than being like, you have to follow it this way because this is the way I have it. And I get having policy and standards and rules, but sometimes it's not all black and white. It needs to be gray.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's important to understand that about yourself too. Like, what are you good at? What are your strengths? What's your take on if you've got, you get clear on what your strengths and your weaknesses are. Are you the type of person that's going out to try to correct your weakness, or are you the type of person that's going to focus on getting even better at your strengths?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say I'm more focused on what are my strengths. I have some of my team that are better. Like, I'm not good at spreadsheets. I'm not a data guy. I'm very much a people person and like creative and scaling and thinking about things of that nature. So I dive in deep on that. I'm aware of my weaknesses, but what I tell myself too is I can see a weakness and make sure that I correct it. But also at the same time, I accept a weakness because usually it's the opposite of what my strength is. So if I'm very strong in this area, most likely that means I have to lack in this area. I mean, obviously my goal is to be like a 7 in every bucket, not a 10 and 1 and 1 and 0. And I tell the same thing about my team leads who are very competitive about them leading. And sometimes they criticize other team leads, which I appreciate. But I was like, you may be the best packer of the truck. You may be the strongest guy, but I'd rather you could be a good leader. Your packing's a B plus, your team leadership's an A, customer service is an A, and your strength is a C, because customers don't really know the difference between an A and a B pack. They just know about how they're being treated. And I'd rather you be a 7 rather than just a 10. And that's like a conversation I have with my employees a lot, especially the ones in the field.
Yeah, I love that. I think as business owners, it's important that we're not a 1 in any category, but that doesn't necessarily mean we have to be a 10 in every category either. Yeah. I mean, if you can fix your weaknesses to where they get good enough to where you understand what it is, or if there's something you don't like in the business that, you want to hire out for and delegate to somebody, it's still important to know how to do it and to be able to do it good enough in case you ever have to, or to be able to show somebody and train them how to do it or create the process around it. But, I'm very much the same way. I like the marketing and the sales side and the building and the creating side. Despise operations with a passion, but if something happens to my layers of management and I have to dive in there, I'm going to dive in there and take it as a challenge for sure. But it's I think good. I'm okay with being a 5 in operations as long as I can be a 10 at something else to outweigh it, and then surround myself and find the people that are 10s at operations and be like, hey, this is your department. Do it what you think is fit. Growth can sometimes be, I just finished listening to Jackie Fisher's book on Audible, and I liked it so much I ordered a hard copy for reference. But she's the founder of 3 Men Movers, and it's one of the biggest moving companies in Texas, about $40 million a year company, over 100 trucks. And she wrote a book called The Growth Paradox. And it was really interesting because she took over the business from her dad when it was only about a $3 million business and took it to 40 million with locations in every major city in Texas. And along the way, she documents, how things evolved and changed during that growth journey. I'm curious what struggles you've had in such rapid growth over the course of 5 years and what the evolution of that has looked like.
Yeah, it's such a blur now, when you're going through the day to day, things just kind of blend together. But the struggles that I've had were, for example, just small things like how I had the truck set in the beginning. I remember when I had 2 trucks, I had everything labeled in the trucks. So there was no question of organization. And it was such a beautiful truck with straps, black straps hanging. And then it gets to like truck 5, truck 6. And now I'm like, oh, this is missing. Do I keep buying this? And now I'm burning money through this, but I want my guys to have the proper materials. So there's always a balance, and there's always a restructuring from providing tools, like I do lockers where guys check things out, to an evolution of that, floor runners and things like that. And then there was situations like, for example, TVs. Everyone has issues with TVs. The way that I learned was, classic blanket, plastic wrap, cardboard, and things of that nature. And then we started having a few claims as we started scaling. The goal of some of the learning lessons that I remembered is this story sticks out where we do something called prep days. And when I first was implementing these, it's homes over 2,000 square feet. We would come out the day prior, do a prep day at the cheaper hourly rate. And at this point, I used to use it as an explanation or explaining why it's beneficial to customers. And 80% of customers would say, yeah, I agree. This was a 3,000 square foot home, my first 6-man, 3-truck job. And I said, we need to do a prep day. She said, I don't need it. And I said, sure. Okay, we don't need it. It needed a prep day. Want to be in the 15-hour move. The customer was crazy. She did not pay the bill. It was a $4,000 bill, complete loss. And ever since that moment, I was like, okay, I learned my lesson. I'm not upset. It's my fault for catering towards the customer rather than me being a professional, telling them what she needs. And I now make it mandatory for all homes that are 2,000 square feet. We do a prep day. As long as it obviously makes sense. There's some partial homes there, but we always now make it mandatory. For one, if there is something crazy, we spot it beforehand. And 2, it's how we want to conduct good business and to make sure your stuff is properly protected and we're not cutting corners. And ever since I've done that, I've now had the confidence to do that in any kind of policy. It's like TV boxes required for 60 inches and larger. There's no, oh yeah, we'll do it for you, just because that's where they get more expensive. They get more fragile. That's where the ultra thins come into play. And we never have TV claims anymore because of that. And just learning not all money is good money, learning that what I believe in and what I want my company to uphold in the sense of its policies needs to stay strong, and I need to stand for it. Otherwise I stand for nothing. And I just break for whatever a customer needs. And I learned that getting burned a few times, and I never looked back and haven't made that mistake again.
Wow, that's really interesting. I've never met a owner, at least to my knowledge, that requires a mandatory prep day before the move for, you said, for moves 2,000 square feet and larger.
Pretty much.
How long?
4 trucks, pretty much 4-man, 2 trucks that you know is going to be somewhere between 4 to 6 hours or plus.
Gotcha. How long are those prep days taking? And are you like stacking prep days? You know, if you can, are those like half days or what's that?
Yeah.
Like?
So stacking prep days is good if you have a lot of blankets. So it depends. Like sometimes that prep day crew will do a job too, but we have to make sure you have enough blankets. It's best to make prep days afternoon window of arrival. So they hit a morning job and then they can leave their pad stack that's gone as job 2. Next day, that truck goes there and joins with another truck with extra pads and things like that. We do charge our minimum for it, but I would say the average prep day is between like 2 to 4 hours. Usually a 2-man team. There's exceptions where we've made it 3-man teams and 4-man teams if we're moving like a massive mansion, like 6,000 square feet, or it's like a $2 or $3 million home. We're going to go in there and do a little extra protection, maybe on the home as well, on top of prepping all the stuff they're not using, or we'll take apart beds if they're not using it at night. Obviously, you have to ask to make sure if they're using a living room furniture, you don't want to have them sit on blanket plastic wrap furniture for the night. So you just got to communicate what you can protect that day and what you cannot.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, that's pretty easy to come in the next day and just throw some mattress bags on some mattresses and wrap a couple things. But nothing grinds a mover's gear more where the customer is supposed to be completely packed and it's a large all-day job or maybe a multi-day job already, and they show up and nothing's packed, or the customer thinks they're packed and they just have no idea how much crap they have.
Yeah, and it saves us sometimes where it's like, this is a 3-truck job, and guys like, oh, we're going to get this in 2. So we save the truck, or vice versa. They're like, we're going to need an extra 2 guys. We're going to need this. They said they're going to sell 50%. They didn't. So it gives us that extra buffer to prepare rather than just showing up on move day and then reacting and trying to figure it out on a pack schedule.
Yeah, the salesperson got it wrong, customer lied to them, whatever the case may be, you know, that probably prevents a lot of overblown estimates with, you know, it being a completely different scope of work. And is it usually the same crew that's doing the prep day that's coming back the next day?
Absolutely needs to be the leader. As you implement it, there's a few mistakes that happen where, say you have a 8-truck or plus operation, your guy who's dispatching may send the truck that was on a prep day on a different job. And now that truck doesn't have blankets, or now you're opening new pads. And so that making sure it's the right truck and always making sure you have at least the team leader, if not both. We try to do always at least the 2 guys, because if they disassemble stuff, you're now trying to communicate the disassembly to a team member who wasn't there, trying to explain. So you definitely want to try to keep it the same crew and have them lead the move fully through.
Yeah, I think that's smart. You know, I noticed something interesting when I was doing my homework before this episode and looking at your website. You publish your pricing, at least your hourly rates, on your website. And, you know, before you even started your moving company, we used to go out to Louis Massaro, and that was brought up in one of his seminars to never publish your pricing, because it's not like ordering a pizza or like a menu. It's, you know, it has to be sold. And when you publish your pricing, it makes it easy for customers to compare apples to apples and go through all that. I guess I'm just curious to hear, like, what's been your experience with publishing your pricing, and what made you decide to do that?
Yeah. I mean, I remember when I was at the Titan retreat, we can touch on this too, how my web form is the complete opposite of what they say to do. Mine's extremely wordy versus just the base thing you call them. But as for the pricing, I don't want a sales office. So everyone that's in my office, the way that it's operated, they have worked their way up from the field. I have no person in the office or in management that has not put in sweat equity for the company like I have. All the guys are super competent, and I don't have a sales team in the sense of what I sell is what I get commission on. They all share commission on what everyone books. It makes it cohesive as a team. So this way, there's no fighting over leads. There's no miscommunication. And overall, we're all working as a team from the office to the field. And then when it comes to the customer's point of view, I believe in the transparency. Like I say, we're not nickel and diming you. I don't like when a company may say, this customer sounds wealthy. This 2-man rate's 200. They speak to someone else trying to get a deal. It's 150. As a business owner, I'd rather not operate that way. And then also, if someone wants to negotiate, I'm like, we don't negotiate our pricing. It's clear here. You can either choose to go with us or not. We don't follow up. We don't do all the stuff that I hear people do. We are booked out because we're just super nice on the phone. We know how to give estimates on the phone. We do on-sites as well for bigger homes. And then people are just like, wow, you're so nice. I want to book with you. Our reputation speaks for itself. So people come to us. And then if anything, we have our problem for not following up is someone wanted to book and they thought they were booked, but never actually confirmed. And that's where we should have followed up, but we're already booked out that it's not even an issue in that sense. So that's kind of my philosophy on that.
That's super interesting. I've never heard a company really do it that way. At least somebody who's experienced the rapid growth that you have at the size that you are. I mean, that's something to think about. So how many people do you have, like, quote unquote sales, and are they going out and doing a lot of on-sites, or is most stuff over the phone?
So I have 7 guys in the office. 2 focus more on dispatch and payroll. And then the other ones all rotate different days where they're on the hot phone. There's a secondary phone, and then they're all hitting web forms that are coming in. We get probably like 40 of those a day of web estimates on top of a bunch of calls. And they kind of have different days where they're on the hot phone and they're not. While they're doing that, they're still managing the teams out in the field. If crews are having questions, they are also helping make the dispatch schedule for tomorrow. So everyone has almost worked in every role as the company. So they all have different parts that they're better at, like we were talking about earlier. I know this guy's better at claims, so he has a claim incentive and focuses on this. This guy's really good at on-site, so he does some of the other stuff, but he handles all the on-sites and gets incentives on that. And the other guys are better at other things, and I kind of just push them in that while they all kind of do somewhat of the similar things with unique incentives for them individually.
Interesting. So, and they all split the same percent of commission, or are they getting different percent?
It kind of goes in tiers. So there's a salary, and then there's a commission based off of their hierarchy. Like the guys who bet on me and believed in the company when I was at 2 trucks, 3 trucks, they have the highest commission. And then now, like guy 5 or 6, and I have so many guys in the pipeline that can be in the office. It's why I open more locations, because I have guys who want to come with me and open up new ones. But as a small company, I can only bring people up when there's room. So there's always people that are hybrids as well, part-time in the field, part-time in the office as well. But based on your ranking of pretty much experience and time is how high your commission goes.
Gotcha. And what is that commission range?
So the base salary of $1,200 every 2 weeks, and then 1.5%, based off of total revenue for the 2 weeks. And then we do quarterly bonuses as well. So as a team, every office manager gets a quarterly bonus. And if we hit, there's tier 1, which is like 500, tier 2, which is 750, and tier 3 is 1,500. If we hit one of those 3 goals at the end of each quarter, to get paid out for those as well.
I want to take a second and tell you all about Tighten Up Training. As a co-founder, we've spent months and months and months and a lot of money pooling together resources from some of the best moving companies in the world. And we're excited to bring this to an online platform available to any mover to use at an affordable price. Tighten Up Training has over 200 videos, including mover training, your highest turnover position, so that you can reduce claims, streamline operations, give your team the tools to perform at the highest level of service that generate repeat and referral business and allow you to charge higher prices, as well as sales training, marketing training, business development, leadership. We're adding more content as we speak. We've got legal training in there. We've even got door-to-door training for the moving industry, thanks to Lenny Gray at the Moving Titan Retreat. We've seen a massive explosion of moving companies jumping on to Tighten Up Training since the last retreat, and people are loving it. And when you sign up and mention this podcast, we're going to give you a free 6-week onboarding course in order to learn how to hold your team accountable and get the entire team on the platform so that you can have the best off-season and summer season that you've ever had. Ideally, the best 2025 that you've ever had. So go to tightenuptraining.com, schedule your free demo today, and look forward to tightening up. Nice. We do a similar tier bonus as well, but we have more of the traditional sales process, with the higher commissions. It's kind of commission draw, but we don't publish our rates or anything like that. Yeah. That's interesting though. And so you mentioned you had some hybrid workers, some guys that go out into the field. Are you saying like on the trucks in the field, or giving estimates? So and they're eligible to get that 1.5%?
They don't. So the ones that are hybrid roles that work, like I have one guy who works 2 days in the office and then like 4 days in the field. He makes a pretty high hourly rate for being in there. He's next in line for once I make the switch for full time. and then he'll get commission once he can make that switch. It's kind of like the training period until that switch happens. And then a new thing I'm about to implement is I have 3 guys who are amazing in the field. I can't bring them in the office, but they definitely could be. I'm going to have them each get 1 day a week or 1 week a month and do on-sites. And I'm going to stack a bunch of on-sites for them to do. And they'll get commissions for all the on-sites because I want them to learn, because you may have some employees like, man, these notes are wrong or this is wrong. But everyone who comes from the field in the office realizes, oh, it's not the office fault. The customer lied about what they had. And it'll be good for them to learn how to do on-sites, give an estimate, but then not actually have to be on it and let that delegate that information to their other team members that they see every day in the field. Because that kind of goes with my philosophy of keeping everything cohesive rather than separate departments. Because in our industry, one of my big core things that I focus on as the owner is there's so many guys that come on your podcast that blow my mind with data. They're so good with data and percentages. What I focus on is, as a business and moving, the field and office divide, I think, is the number one dictator of your success of the company. And it's going to teeter, but most you can mitigate that to make everyone like each other from the field to the office. Everything falls in line. Everything goes smooth. Claims are down. Sending job twos are no problem. Guys are down to help other team members because the culture's so strong. But when that gap gets hard and someone in the office is trying to tell them to do something, that's where you deal with those issues that I'm sure so many companies deal with.
Interesting. I just did a podcast the other day with a guy that was talking about culture and the importance, how culture is really the key to any business's success. And the more people that you throw into the mix, the more there potentially could be those clashes and personality differences and a lot of different factors and variations of how that would go. But I mean, that's a really interesting way to maintain a really positive culture because I mean, you basically take away all of the little things that could tear a culture apart. You know, you've got the movers trusting the salespeople trusting the movers. You know, everybody trusts each other. They're not fighting over leads. They're not disputing things. That's really interesting. Well, thank you for sharing all of that. That's a lot of food for thought. What if somebody does follow up? Like what, don't you think that like just by simply calling the customer and following up that you may have given a quote to, or that even saw your rates already, like just to check in with them? Because what I've found is that a lot of times when people are looking to move, they're submitting quote forms on several websites, or they're calling and getting their 3 quotes or doing whatever. And then life happens and they're driving the kids to soccer practice. They're at dinner. They work busy schedules. And sometimes it's just a matter of the person who creates the path of least resistance to book that job by simply following up, be like, okay, yeah, fine. Let's get it booked. I'm busy. I don't want to have to keep, calling around or call back this other company or whatever. And so I feel like if you could consistently try to get in front of the customer more just by reaching out and checking in on them, you'd probably be booking even more moves. At least I think. I'm not to say that what you're doing isn't working, but why don't you want them to do it?
I absolutely agree with what you're saying. And I mean, the thing is with business, there's so many different approaches. And do I think that is a very successful way? Absolutely. It just was something that I never had to do and I don't do. And I take pride that we're not sales heavy, because I think about when I've been sold on something and I'm like, man, they got me. And then I'm looking for reasons for this service to go bad because I'm a little annoyed that I got sold. And that may not always be the case, but I've also had customers tell me that they booked us because they weren't being harassed. Or like I said, how many times you call a mechanic and you're like, what do you want? Like just the answering of the phone is so poor. We're so quick with giving our estimates. We're so fast. Like we don't use a CRM. Everyone in my office books estimate based off knowledge and the model that I showed them.
I was just about to ask if you're on a CRM.
Exactly. So yeah, we're not. And I saw you use Acuity as like somewhat of it. I have that on my website. It allows people to book moves for free and on our website. So I get like 10 to 15 to 20 bookings a month without me doing anything. And then and they just book at midnight. I wake up, we got bookings, and we have a follow-up process with that to make sure that they didn't quote themselves for a 2-man when it should be a 4 to 6 man or anything like that. But it just kind of aligns with the amount of calls we have and the way that we get an estimate out maybe within 15 minutes of speaking to someone, or we deliver it on the phone. They're like, oh, I don't know if it's because our reputation's so good, our branding, the trust, but I would say our booking percentage is somewhere between like 50 to 60%. Pretty much everyone that we send an estimate to is coming back, or they let us know, hey, we want to use you guys. Maybe you're a little too expensive. And like, we completely understand. Or there's other great companies too around here that we completely recommend. Like I know you always say you don't think about competing in a sense, and I'm the same way. Like I share the love. If I'm like, hey, this company may be better for you. We don't have liftgate trucks. Maybe go with them. And we just built this funnel of business coming from social media to, we have 2,000 reviews with a perfect 5-star rating. So everyone's looking at that. I have a lot of realtor relationships. So it's just funneling all in now. Now we're in year 5, that it's almost too much business for us to even kind of handle at some points.
Wow. So the book online thing's interesting. We're using an AI tool on our website called Come Home AI, and I've had Riley on the podcast before. He's the founder of that. And we're looking at rolling out a book online feature later on this summer for smaller moves that book out at least 2 weeks in advance, just because we're a little nervous about, if we're booked up, taking something on or not getting all of the accurate information. So we're going to start probably with like 2 bedrooms and less that are 2 weeks away or more. But how do you do the book online to make sure that you're not overbooking, or that a customer's asking for 2 movers and a truck and they've got a big mansion? I mean, how are you making sure that, because I can just see a lot of problems with the book online program.
So it's certainly ironically enough, my first ever Dogwood Raleigh move was an estimate I sent, and they self-booked on my website. And I was like, oh, I got a booking. I didn't even do anything. But so initially, when I first implemented, I would see the booking. It would give them the confirmation email. Maybe they would ask a question, and I would trust that it was a 2 to 4. And I'd be like, well, if it's 4 to 6, it's their fault. And that is not good, because I'm like, this is supposed to be a 3-hour move. I'm like, you booked it yourself and said you only had 2 bedrooms, but it's a 4-bedroom house. So now we have a bunch of bullet points before booking and kind of questions, and it lets us know their full move that they have to fill out before booking it, that we'll review. But immediately when a self-booking comes in, we get all email confirmations every single time a booking comes in. If it says booked by client, not by Dogwood, we hit them with this follow-up template email that basically reminds them of the travel fee and then asks them to list out their inventory. And then if they don't get back to us within a week, then we have that follow-up process where we'll give them a call to make sure that they are having what they need. We do say if your move is over 2,000 square feet, give us a call, because most likely we'll need more than 1 truck. However, there are people that still book a 3,000 square foot house on there. That's fine. They're already in the pipeline. We just go and do an on-site or give them a phone call, talk through their inventory, or we use an AI tool sometimes that's a scope, a web form, get their full inventory. And then from there, we'll be like, you need a 6-man 3 truck with a prep day. They never argue. They wanted to go with us anyways. That's why they went on our website and booked with us, because they probably got a referral or something like that. And then as for the overbooking with Acuity, we only allow it to, we know what our limits are. So we only allow self-bookings up to 80% of what our schedules could be. So we never run into that issue of someone just booked and we don't even have the truck or the guys available situation.
Gotcha. And so if it's approaching that 80%, but I get that. That makes total sense. I like that. Can they give you is there a pop-up that shows up that says, we can't book this date because we're 80%, but we may still be able to help you? Call us at this number, or then you at least still get their info and you can call them. Yeah,
there's a bullet point that kind of says, if there's a day that you see that's not available, always give us a call, because there's a chance that we can put you in, because it's not perfect when it comes to stacking as well. So we may be able to do afternoons, but the way the software works, it doesn't compute that. It's just you're booked. So maybe sometimes you're booked at 60% rather than 80%. But if they give us a call, that we can book. I would say I noticed the self bookings, we do it up to 3 days before the move day to actually do it. But most self bookings tend to happen organically 2 to 4 weeks out, if not further. And I think it's due to the fact that our schedule is booked too soon when they're looking. And then also what I've noticed now is a lot of people who use their self booking are returning customers. So they kind of book what they had last time. They kind of now learned their process, what they need, and they just want to get in the schedule and they book, and then maybe they'll follow up. And with our bookings are a long laundry list of confirmation emails, which is fantastic. We show them what we do, how to protect floors, and they can upgrade if they want a protection to set that precedent. Because I've been on so many moves where do you wear booties, or you guys take your shoes off? And if you don't have you don't let your customers know exactly what to expect, they can be like, well, my last movers did this, but this is what we do. So we have an expectation, and we have an upcharge if they want to increase their floor protection. We show them what move ready looks like. I used to say the phrase move ready, and I realize I'm speaking in moving jargon. Customers don't know what move ready means. So I show them pictures from our guys Ninja took photos of a house where it's the dresser's covered with everything and they have to move bottles off. And I'm like, if your house looks like this, it's not move ready. And then I have pictures showing them clear pathways, clear furniture, showing what move ready is as well. And if you look at our reviews, you'll see a lot of people say there were so many confirmation emails that were helpful along the way. And I believe one of the guys I spoke to, Sunshine Movers, has a nice video where he walks through and talks about it. I thought about doing something like that. Right now, the confirmation emails work great. I also touch on things we do and we don't do as well. But those are things that I perfected over the years. Anytime a problem happened, a new bullet point to the confirmation email with another one leading up 5 days prior, 4 days prior, and 3 days prior to just like make that process as smooth as possible rather than just being like, this is a part of our industry. We just have to deal with it kind of thing.
Love that. I love that communication. And I definitely recommend videos, that can do a lot. And we do like a what to expect on moving day video that will text to the customer when we're on our way to an on-site estimate.
Do you use like a software or do you guys manually text it?
So both. We have Moversville connected to our CRM, Smart Moving to set up drip campaigns. We also work with Snowball for text drip campaigns. But the video is on YouTube, and so when one of our moving consultants is going out to an estimate, they're trained to call the customer, say, "Hey, it's Jay coming out to your estimate. Should be there in about 30 minutes." Or if they don't answer, they'll leave a message and send them a text. And then whether they answer or not, be like, here's what you can expect. Here's a 2-minute video on what to expect. Get your questions ready. I'm happy to help you answer anything that you might have. And it really paints the picture of, it shows our warehouse and our trucks and our guys and how the furniture gets protected and, what the whole process, you'll expect a confirmation call, a couple days prior to your move. And then you'll expect a call from the crew chief on his way out. And then when we get there, we'll have you sign some paperwork and we'll start protecting items and lay down the floor pads. And this is what and it's like telling them this. And then it's like, this is what it looks like. And we have, it's a combination of me, like as the owner at the beginning saying, "Hi, I'm the owner." So it gives that kind of face to like an owner. But it also has a female from our team talking because I think female voices build a little bit more trust a lot of times than a male voice, especially when the person who tends to make the majority of home service decisions is actually a female from our data. Yeah. So I think that if you can get your marketing to resonate or even your outreach like that to resonate with the female of the house of the higher end affluent customer, it can help out a lot. But you mentioned you don't use a CRM, but I heard you say something about software. Well, first of all, like, how do you keep everything organized and dispatch and keep all the customer information ready and create that transparency and do your paperwork without a CRM? And if you do use some kind of a software, what are you doing for that?
Yeah, this is always an interesting conversation when I speak to people with CRMs. I remember I had a video call with Chad one time and I was showing him, he's like, "What you're doing is so confusing." I'm like, "What you're doing is so confusing to me." It just
easily confused. Yeah.
It was just like, it's just what we evolved to. Like right now I'm looking at a spreadsheet that we have on Google that is the next 4 weeks of all our guys' availability. And then it crosses them out, who we're using. We're building teams and things like that. Acuity is what we use for our scheduling for confirmations with our customers. Each booking represents a truck. So it's a 2-truck. They get a 2-truck block. We build the schedule on there. Job notes, we made a complex like messaging platform through Discord, which a lot of people use to play video games on. But we have chats where it's like team leader chat, the announcement chats, bonus competition chats, and then every job note every day gets sent through Discord with their job information, and they see it all and they copy it. And then we have different spreadsheets built for like tracking revenue, things like that, and some payroll things.
That's interesting. So you're kind of piecing together several tools. Mm-hmm. Have you ever thought about using a CRM to try to API those tools in, or even creating something on your own?
I showed my guys, and I was like, I went to the conference and I spoke to some of the guys, and I was like, CRMs make sense. And I told the guys, I was like, look, it's more money than what I'm paying. I am happy to pay for what you guys think is useful. And we did a video call. I think it was Smart Moving. And I was like, do you guys like this? And they're like, I think we like 4 aspects of it, but with all the complexity, they didn't want that. And since my guys aren't given estimate, like the big selling point is if you hire someone who's not been in the moving industry, it helps with the estimate. My guys don't need that. We have this formula with Google Keep where we're taking notes down. So if you gave an estimate while we're speaking, I have your inventory listed. They call back. I pull it up. It's right there. And then we'll send them the estimate. And we don't have to pay for that. Like, again, it's not about the money, but like the guys are like, this is easier than me clicking what I need. And I can go fast. And they estimate based off knowledge versus and what I showed them and what they experienced versus using a CRM. There are really good benefits to CRMs, like some of the email things that I've seen, tracking, and certainly tons of great aspects. But the big thing for me, I remember when I had the meeting, I was like, I would have to sacrifice my self-booking, and I'm paying $50 a month for my software versus what a CRM costs. And I'm going to be losing self-bookings. I only really like 20% of what you're offering. And I just, the way my company's built, I don't need all the tools that are kind of involved in it.
No, that's interesting. I mean, hey, if it works for you, it works for you. One thing I have realized over the years, though, is that employees oftentimes get comfortable with how things are, and they develop these habits and routines, and they can be very resistant to change. And so sometimes they don't know what is best for them until they start to use it. I mean, I remember when we first started using a CRM, we were using Move It Pro, and then we went from using like Google calendars and spreadsheets to Move It Pro, and there was a big learning curve there. And then we got comfortable with that. And then I made the decision to switch over to Smart Moving. And then there was a lot of pushback and resistance there. But now, like, I look back and I'm like, I don't know how I ever did it without it. Like, it just, the one thing I like about CRMs specifically, and obviously our model's a little bit different, is all of the data that you can pull, like flash reports like that. There's so many different things that we can look at. We can look at, how many leads did we get? How many leads did we get this time last year? How many bookings did we get? Bookings last year. I can do the bookings by service date report and get an expectation of cash flow over the next, week or foreseeable future, however long I want to do. Tracks payments and where the payments are coming from, and the revenues and where the different line items on the revenues are from a sales standpoint. Moves by zip code and the average values and the totals we've collected. I mean, booking percentages for on-sites, booking percentages for phone, all these different things, and marketing ROIs, seeing what marketing is producing, not only the highest booking percentages, because we can adjust our pricing accordingly based off of where the booking percentage is coming from, which I know kind of goes against your philosophy there. But if we have a booking percentage on a certain piece of marketing that's 80%, and then we have a booking percentage on another piece that's 20%, we know that we probably got to get a little bit more competitive with that 20% booking percentage, especially if it's a good average job size. And then for those 80% booking percentage sources, we'll know that we need to raise the pricing. And we can also know who we're up against for various different marketing sources by going to those sources and seeing who else is advertising there. So, I mean, just a lot of data. And I'm a big, data-driven decision maker. And that's, how I know where to put marketing dollars and where to turn the dials and who's exceeding, the booking percentages. Like if we were having all of them share commissions, I could see somebody who was crushing it and booking the highest ticket jobs at the highest booking percentage getting frustrated by somebody who's dragging them down and taking leads from them, booking at lower percentages. Yeah. So, I'm not saying what you're doing is wrong because it's clearly working. I'm just saying
no,
that's one of the big values.
Concede the value that you're saying. Like I certainly, I'm sure you have things too you think about where you're like, should I do this or should I not? And I definitely teeter, and I never want to get caught in my own hubris of thinking, oh, I got it figured out and this is the best system ever, because I certainly believe I don't. And that's what's kind of led to our success is just constantly evolving and adapting. And our next move may be a CRM. I'm not completely saying that I won't go that way. It's just what we have has been working and it is progressing. I'm not feeling like the disorganized side of it. But again, I may test one out and be like, what have I been doing all these years? And then that 10X is me, I definitely have that thought, and I can see that all that data is amazing where it's like, I have my marketing team that handles some of that aspect, send me reports. But I think maybe where the one thing that I differ from you is I'm such not a data guy where I feel like you feel comfortable in the data where I feel more comfortable with seeing how my guys are kind of like, I more watch the temperament of my guys in the office, the field. And that's where I kind of keep my eye on. I'm like, is the tempo good? Do I need to hop on moves just to see how guys are doing? Do we need to do a company event, or do I just need to have one-on-ones to just uplift the mentality? That's where my focus is on, because right now, like I said, we're booked out to where we're turning jobs away. We probably need to increase rates again. And so until the point where it's like organizations really getting out of control and things like that. But I also concede if I was tracking some of the data, I could probably see some of the money I'm burning that I shouldn't be burning as well.
Hey man, if it's not broken, don't fix it until it is. I mean, focus on the things that you know need improvement. What about AI? Are you using AI for anything? I recently started making songs on AI because Chad and I got into like a rap battle by like rapping about things, and we used AI to like send each other these MP4s. And I just did one last night for my dad's birthday. I made him like a happy birthday song and like a 50s doo-wop type thing.
That's cool.
I'm having fun with it, but I've started to use a lot more for business too. And the thought occurred to me that I could make a jingle with AI and like, Chat GPT or Grok. What's the catchiest earworm that we can use on our phone lines so that people can't forget about us or whatever? But are you using it?
Play with the jingle. Yeah,
Most of you have heard me talk about Moversville and the power of their email marketing service that has helped us increase leads by over 112% over the last year. But have you heard of Moversville Connect? Moversville Connect is an incredible resource for all things moving. They feature an array of vendors and services and lists like insurance providers, softwares, equipment suppliers, marketing sources, and much, much more. The best part? This resource is free. Go check out Moversville Connect today by going to moversville.com and clicking Connect. That's moversville.com and click Connect and discover the world of Moversville beyond email.
So if you look at our Instagram, my best friend is a videographer. He has his own company, but I've also always been a creative before business, and I've learned to love business because I found the creative aspects of it. And right now I love going into Final Cut, edit videos. Some days I'm just like, I'm going to go hard on my videos. I actually did one recently, which was, I saw a restaurant do this. That's, I think in New York, that's really popular, where someone calls and says, hey, I left my hat in the restaurant. And then he starts talking about what he ate to eat, and they're showing videos of the food, and he's talking about the restaurant, the whole voicemail. So I created a video. It's on our Instagram through AI voice, where it sounds like an actual customer calling us. I made it sound like a voicemail, and the customer is like, hey, it's me again, just calling. Like, I love you guys so much. I'm trying to spitball what I can move again. So like, I use AI for a lot of creative stuff. I use it for some of the design stuff, like the shirt I'm wearing right here. I made, and I was giving these to customers. It has like two guys lifting a couch in the back. So I use AI for a lot of design and creative elements that I implement, whether it's like a box that I give to customers. Like I made this one, I need to actually make them more. The idea was fantastic. And then I realized I didn't implement the actual creating of the boxes if I wasn't doing it, where we'd have a t-shirt, our stickers, a first night kit that had shampoo, conditioner, toothbrushes, and and then a few extras like a magic eraser, some snacks and things like that, that on the big moves that we would have, we'd give them the first night necessity kit with our shirt and everything. So this way they forgot their toothbrush, and we got a few reviews right away. And like the first night necessities came in awesome because you're so worried about moving, you forget the little small things, and you're in your night house for the first night and you don't have anything like that. So I use AI more for the creative side of things right now.
Cool. No, I'm so excited about all the things AI can do. Can do it. I feel like I think a lot of people are starting to use like the AI voice agents. I personally don't think it's quite there yet to replace people. I think it will be at some point, but I've been thinking about, what about an AI chatbot? Like, what if we uploaded all of our SOPs and everything about our company into an AI and our pricing models and everything else, and put it on our website for book online, almost, I don't even know if you can do this, but train it to know what our availability is inside of our CRM. And like, what if we could kind of go to do the online booking stuff with like an AI chatbot? And I feel like it's pretty close to being there. I don't think it's close to replacing humans, but yeah, I'm excited to see where it all goes. I'm waiting for those driverless trucks though. That's going to eliminate a lot of hassle with having to hire drivers and stuff. But speaking of hiring, obviously you've had to hire, I'm sure, a lot of people to staff as many trucks as you have, and especially across different locations. What's your recruiting, hiring, and onboarding process look like?
Yeah, so this year I was actually just talking to the hiring manager today that this has been the easiest hiring year ever. We had the least turnover during slow season, and this year we didn't even have to open Indeed. It was just so many friends of guys, because our culture is so strong that everyone wants to come. So we have people keep applying, and we're just like, I think we have to stop and just wait, because we also have a good solid core. We're by NC State, like 5-10 minutes from it. So we have guys that work for the summer, go back to school and stop working. And then we have some that work full time during summer and then go to 2 days a week during school. And then they also have friends. So there's always new people that are connections from there. And then we've hired a lot of our we're probably 80% full-time ish. And then the rest are part-time, fill in the gap kind of guys. The biggest thing that I have done is I've created a system of wingman, apprentice wingman where you're on for training. Then there's wingman, then there's apprentice team leader, then there's team leader, then there's veteran team leader, and then beyond that is a captain. So there's this big growth scale and different hierarchy of roles. And with that becomes more pay, and our pay is very competitive in that sense. And then I'll have meetings and I hear the guys out. A lot of the field guys have my personal number, will just call me, and I'm not afraid to be like, call me. Or some owners are like, don't. And sometimes I'm like, just give me a call. I'm happy to talk this through with you. And sometimes that goes a long way where they're not like, hey, the owner's too good to speak to me. So that has helped the culture as well. We do a lot of company events. So typically and historically we've done Indeed was our primary source. And then from there we do the interview. After the interview, you have to be careful. Obviously, you know what an all-star seems like typically right away, but you want to go through at least 5 of your candidates because you may have 2 terrible candidates. The next person comes, he's realistically like a 6 out of 10, but he seems like an 8 because the other 2 were so bad that you're like, yeah, let's bring this guy on. And then 2 weeks later, you have that actual 8 to 10 guy come in for the interview. You already hired someone and now you're dealing with that game. So we don't rush to hire. And we only hire people that seem like good people because I'll never get upset with the damage while someone's learning. I'm more upset with people's mentality and what they're representing the culture of the company when they're out there, and they have to mesh with the team that we have there as well. So we look for those things. We ask certain questions like experience, but a question that we have that I think is useful is if a customer asks you to do something that as a company we're not supposed to do, but you know you can do it successfully to make the customer happy, what would you do? There's no right or wrong answer. Personally, I would probably go against a company's policy to make sure they're happy. And if I hear someone say that, it lets me know that they kind of think on their own, will take leadership. Yes, it can certainly bite you. However, I at least appreciate you wanting to. The majority of the answers are, I'll call management, which is perfectly acceptable as well. But some questions like that let us gauge what kind of person that is interviewing. And then after that, we bring them for an orientation, go through policies, what we expect, how you get notes. We show them a video of how a day should be, completely from getting contracts to going on a job and then finishing, all the stuff in there. And then we put them on for free for about 5 days. The company I was at before didn't do that. And a lot of companies will say, hey, don't tell me you're new. I certainly get it. You're losing money. However, from a mover standpoint, which I like to side with the movers when the office has a problem, I side with the movers to make sure I'm always playing devil's advocate. And I remember when I was in the field, I would get new guys throwing me all day and I would have to be a 2-man. And this guy couldn't physically handle it. He's cramping. Now the customer's helping me finish the move. And one, that's bad for the brand. Your best guys who are probably training your guys are getting frustrated because they're constantly getting new guys and they can't finish the job properly, which probably affects their tip. They're not getting reviews, things of that. So now I do it for free. So if it's a 2-man, it's a 3-man. If it's a 4-man, 2-truck, it's a 5-man. The customer gets someone for free. And if he's good, it's just a quicker move for him. They're getting a deal. 2, the guy can learn without the pressure of, I need to act like I know what I'm doing, even though I don't. And then 3rd, it's worst case, he's not built for it. It's not going to affect the move any whatsoever. So we do that. And then from there, we have kind of follow-ups with our captains. They let us know, hey, does this guy show potential? Or what do you think? And then we'll have the honest conversation. We tell people works based off merit, that if you're constantly crushing it, you're going to get the best jobs, biggest jobs, and where you're going to be on the schedule, even if it gets a little bit slower, versus the guys that have issues with showing up. And we'll have conversations. You may only get small jobs, or you're on reserve, where you come in and just as a reserve, if we need someone you can replace and kind of prove that trust again. And we just have open dialogue and honest conversations that aren't aggressive. They're just very honest and direct. And from that, I've had guys that were low tiers become captains because they've been mentored in what to do rather than just giving up on them and being like, you have to leave. And they proved themselves. They had a fight to get out from the bottom, but they made it to the top, which now they walk around with pride and they teach new guys as well.
Gotcha. And that all comes back to that culture that you've built. You know, this is just how we do things here. And it's that mentorship. And I think mentorship is one of the best ways to learn anything, whether you're trying to get mentorship to, you know, from people to grow your business, or you're trying to get mentorship because you're brand new at a job and you want to learn from the people that have been in that job for a while that do a good job. Do you have like SOPs written out or scripts written out for when people call in? You do? Okay.
So
cool.
Yeah, there's always, when someone first calls, there's our basic script that we have that we train them on. I don't want them to wing it. From there, it's follow the script. I used to make guys give an estimate over the phone. And I learned quickly that's not the best way to train someone, because getting inventory, asking questions is easy. But when it comes to like, you need a 3-man team for 4 to 6 hours, delivering that gets shaky, especially when you're new, and you may underquote someone because you're new and you're nervous. So now new hires, like that guy who's part-time, he can estimate a 2-man, 1-bedroom apartment. But otherwise, I want him to send an email, not giving that estimate over the phone, so he can think about it, run it by the team, make sure it's the correct estimate. And he kind of follows the script. But after that, the guys have it in their brain. They know what to ask for, and everyone has their own style to the way they do it a little bit. They ask all the information we need, but the tonality of the way they say things is up to them. And once they start feeling confident, I tend to listen in. I won't listen in the beginning. They work with the other guys in the office to train them. And I make sure that the word choice, I'm very particular with word choice. I remember when I was training my friend when I was in Charlotte, we could book someone on this day and said, yeah, we could probably get you on. Probably is not a confident word, and saying, yeah, we can, yes, can we or can we not? So I start correcting and fine tuning some language once they start feeling confident. I don't do that too soon because they get nervous. I remember one time I was hovering over a new guy, and he probably told the customer we have a 2-hour minimum 5 times in a row. And I just had to take the phone over. I'm like, sorry, he's in training. I was like, all right, I need to figure this out. Me hovering is not going to be the right way to do this. So usually it's a month of email estimates only, no phone calls. And then it may be someone answering the phone, but they're handling the typing, so they don't have to talk and they can hear the flow of the conversation. From there, they will then do the phone conversation, get the information, only send estimate emails. And then once they're comfortable, they can do it all, where I may give you an estimate on the phone, then I'm like, do you want me to send this to you an email as well? I have your notes if you call back anyways. Usually we still always send the estimate after the phone call anyway, so they have it in writing as well.
Nice. Love that. And so, you've got SOPs, you've got scripts. Is it the same for Brightleaf? I want to kind of talk a little bit about that to wrap this up. Like you started a second company essentially in your same market in Raleigh, I guess in Durham, but it's Raleigh, Durham, called Brightleaf. What led you to make that decision to start? I mean, sometimes I hear people acquire a competitor in their market. I mean, I did that in the early days and tried to run 2 brands next to each other. And I realized like now we need 2 websites, 2 trucks, 2 uniforms. It doesn't make sense to compete against myself. 2 SEO campaigns and other marketing campaigns. What led you to do that, and how has that been going? What's your philosophy there? And are all the processes the same?
Yeah, it happened organically. Initially, I was like, the area is too close to me to keep it Dogwood. It would just be too confusing to be Dogwood, Durham, when we're only 30, 25 minutes apart. But I love starting up a company. When it comes to starting up a moving company, I think I can go anywhere and do it. I feel very confident in that. I love the startup creative phase, creating a branding and things like that. So I had a guy who was in the office, and he was probably 4th tier down, but he was super motivated. I had a good connection with him, and he was like, I want to be a millionaire. I want to own my own company. And I was like, I will start one for you so you can see how to scale it, and then we'll take it from there. And if you want to open your own, you'll see how it goes. Maybe I give you equity of this one, and vice versa. We kind of start talking about that. I get all of it started, truck branded, everything like that. I'm about to get married, and he goes, hey, I need to talk to you. I'm like, okay. He goes, I decided I'm going to move to Utah to go snowboard and live with my friends. And I was like, okay. So now I need to pivot, because I was going to separate it fully. Now I'm like, all right, I have guys. So now I have the Raleigh guys, and there's some guys that are specifically focused on Raleigh stuff and Brightleaf stuff. They have a little bit of a hybrid role. So like today, there's a guy who, there's the main Dogwood phone, second Dogwood phone, and then the Brightleaf phone. They're all in the same office together. And he'll book Brightleaf moves and then put them on the Dogwood schedule, because we have to make sure that we're not overbooking on both schedules, because the same employees work them all. So instead of separating it, it now becomes, hey, you're working Brightleaf today, you're working Dogwood today, tomorrow may switch, but it means they may be getting estimates from both. We'll certainly have customers who want on-site from both, so we have to make sure it's different managers for sure going. Like, again, some people figure out the cheat code because Brightleaf is cheaper, and they'll kind of call and be like, hey, is this your company? Like, yeah, it's the same owner. It's our sister company. However, now we just have more market share. We're in 2 separate spots on Google, even though it is the same lot. I finessed that in a weird way. I had my brother's house as a location to get it approved at first, and now it's still there, even though it's in the same office. But the benefits are, our slow seasons are way less, because we now have people having options calling 2 companies, but it's still my same core employees, and the guys all still get commissions from both companies. So we all work together on it. The negative is I am slowing growth down. So say, for example, Dogwood's running 15 trucks. and our employee cap is maybe 18 trucks or 16 trucks, we can't book more Brightleaf even if customers want to. So am I holding myself back with that company in the sense that that company would probably be 2 million right now if I separated it? Absolutely. However, I've heard a lot of podcasts from you, other guys, where they do too much too soon and they spread themselves too thin. And now this company's not doing so well because they're focusing on this company. And I refuse to do that with Dogwood. I refuse to do that to my team. So I was like, how about we all just do this and I'll make extra money doing it? So now it's just kind of like icing on the cake. And if I ever want to separate it, if I ever want to sell it, I certainly can, and it'll be profitable. It has like 400 reviews. I think it can book out, if I had a clear schedule, 10 trucks if I wanted to. Now, currently, it's probably booking 3 to 5 trucks with some stacked jobs daily or every other day in that sense. And at this point, it's just like extra revenue for the whole team. And it works out great, to be honest. And there's no retraining. When we hire someone, we tell them, you may be on Brightleaf for Dogwood. This is basically Dogwood, but you may be wearing a Brightleaf shirt today.
Interesting. Yeah. Have you thought about like differentiating the brands? Like sometimes you'll see one company that like specializes in like a higher end premium service and one company that's kind of like more of like your, budget service, or have you ever thought about some kind, or maybe one's commercial, one's residential, like anything like that? Is that on the table?
Yeah. I mean, I'm certainly into like pivoting in that direction. Like I will say I did try to do 2 different types of branding aspects with it, and I'll test certain type of things with one company versus the other. It's kind of like
they kind of resonate with maybe a different clientele.
Exactly. Like with Dogwood, I did more of like a local feel. It kind of feels like a brewery kind of vibe. And you talked about this as well. And I recommend this to companies who are thinking about starting out. If you have the option in your brand is, all right, 70% of women, I think, book moves. I just feel like that's basically what our statistics are too. Yeah. And I remember early on, women were booking us because of just, I thought your brand was cute. And our industry's so masculine anyways, that I think having a feminine logo to kind of balance it out works really well in our favor. Yeah. So then we did the same thing with Brightleaf, but I based it more on a high end, like West Elm kind of lettering and try to cater towards that. And they both work phenomenally, just different ways and different ways you want to target in a sense.
Interesting. Yeah, that's why our colors are purple and yellow. Kind of effeminate, but they stand out for sure. And I think they're softer, friendlier than like, I've thought about honestly rebranding to like Titan Moving, and then maybe that would do well. But it is. You're right. We're dominating a masculine industry, catering to a feminine customer most of the time, not always, but that's an interesting thing. So last question, and then I'll let you go because we're running a little long here. But this has been a great conversation. Is you mentioned that you feel confident that you could go start up a moving company anywhere at any time. Obviously you get a lot of repeat and referral business at this stage, 5 years in. You've crossed kind of that threshold where people are moving again, or maybe for the 3rd time already, or maybe even more if they're renters. But what advice would you have if you were to go out and start another location, which I guess you are in Wilmington right now as well? Yeah, how are you marketing? How are you getting the phone to ring in the beginning? And what other marketing do you still do this day with Dogwood, even though I'm sure you get the majority repeat and referral?
So the next on the list is Tennessee. I think I have a manager who wants to go out and open one, so I'm going to partner with him. So we're going to I like to go to the city if I don't know it already. And I don't know Tennessee that well. I think he's leaning towards Nashville, but I want to kind of feel the vibe of the city. I think not all marketing works in certain areas. Every city has a different tone. Some areas love the idea of local. Some cities are too big where it doesn't work. You have to brand differently. So first is branding for me. That's everything. I look at that. When it comes to starting out, the reason that I feel confident is I know how hard I can work, and like what I did, instead of focusing on realtors, I went hard on socials, which now we have so many connections. We just won over an influencer who's a realtor who sells $300 million of real estate a year. And we're her go-to move. She just posted a whole reel with us that's collaborated. We've already gotten so much business on that. I think we moved like 10 influencers. We're like the piece of cake moving of Raleigh, basically.
Yeah. Roadway, they do it. They do a lot of influencers.
Yeah,
Roadway moving.
I know some people hate it. I recommend it. I've gotten a lot of business from it. Obviously, everyone knows their market better than what I'm saying, but it works phenomenally for us. But I did letters really hard. I didn't use, USA Home listings at first. I would just go to Zillow and look at houses, newest listings with furniture inside, send them that way. But I do recommend USA Home listings as well. Did that. I went to apartments handing out brochures. But I just think my understanding of moving, I understand the business side now, but just the idea of how to create a culture and a team and how to train people, I know is elite. And all I know is this industry. It's all I've ever done, that I feel like no matter where I go, I can kind of recreate this. And I've kind of done it twice. I do feel like it's harder when I'm sending someone else and they're not me. That is something I need to work on, basically all the knowledge I have, having it out. But I do feel like my approach is a little bit different from when I've met everyone in the retreats and stuff like that, that it at least gives me a slight uniqueness in the way that we give estimates and the way that we estimate, that it kind of is refreshing in a market compared to a lot of my competitors.
Yeah, well, you're certainly doing things differently. I mean, everything we talked about towards the beginning of the podcast is against the grain. It's against the traditional textbook playbook that a lot of movers operate under. And I think, Lewis was a big, I guess you would call it, innovator of that time for the independent movers, because before that it was like what the van lines did, which was like, don't do that. Whatever you do. I mean, they're dinosaurs, and I'm sorry if you're a van line owner or operator listening to this, but you're probably going to go the way of the dinosaurs if you guys don't make some changes. But that was innovative at the time. I think a lot of people now are doing that and following his methodologies, and things have just changed a lot since he rolled a lot of that stuff out, with AI and all the different things with the market and COVID and all these different things. So I think it's important to go against the grain and to do things, throw things against the wall, see what sticks, and then roll with that. And that's, again, where I like the data. But it sounds like you've got a good intuition and a good, you've got great leadership abilities, clearly, and you promote a great culture. And what they say is culture eats strategy for breakfast. So I think that's awesome, man. How can people get in touch with you, Ryan, if they want to talk more moving? Because I could sit here and talk for another hour if you want, but hopefully I'll see you in September and we can have those conversations. But what's the best way to get in touch?
Yeah, so I kind of mentor a few businesses that just reach out to me on Instagram. So our Dogwood Instagram is Dogwood Moving Co. I control that. So anyone who wants to DM on that, I'll probably see that message and then I'll be happy to speak to you. Also, mine is King Ryan 94, my last name and first name. Feel free to follow my personal account. You can even call our office from our website and just ask for me. I'm happy to speak to anyone. I've spoken to probably 5 or 6 businesses that just found me on Instagram this past year, just asking for advice. I'm always happy to help. I know what it's like when there's no really information out there to help. And I kind of love the industry. So I can talk about it for hours. Awesome,
man. Well, thanks so much for coming on. This has been an awesome episode with Ryan King of Dogwood Moving and Brightleaf in the Raleigh, Durham, Wilmington, North Carolina areas. And I'm excited to follow your path of growth, Ryan. I thank you so much for your time for coming on. And until next time, we will talk to you all later.
Thanks for having me.
Before we wrap up, I want to thank the team at Hey Lou for making this show happen. Hey Lou is a virtual assistant placement and management platform owned by a fellow moving titan, and they provide the production for the Grow Your Moving Company podcast. But here's what's really amazing. Their virtual assistants do way more than just podcast support. From managing my crazy schedule to handling client communications, data and KPI analysis, and even sales support for a fraction of the cost of traditional salaried in-house employees, they're truly a secret weapon behind Two College Brothers' growth. Curious how a VA could transform your business? Check out our referral link in the show notes. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Grow Your Moving Company podcast. If you'd like to learn more about any of the sponsors listed on this show, want to apply for the next Moving Titan retreat, or interested in owning or working for a Two College Brothers franchise, drop me a line at wade@twocollegebrothers.com. Moving out. Have a great day.